Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and we'd like to welcome everyone to the City of Daly City Planning Commission regular meeting of Tuesday, February 4th, 2020, 7 p.m. here in the council chambers of City Hall. We ask that everyone please stand for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May we have roll call, please?
Villanueva, absent. Satori, absent. Crump,
Present.
Pacheco,
Present.
Proaño.
Present. Thank you very much. Now we have reorganization of the planning commissioners.
Madam Chairman, can I request that we put this over a month? We have all five of us here.
I think that's a great idea.
To the Wednesday coming up in
Right.
March.
Yes.
Do we need a vote on that? Or can we just accept it? Do we need a vote for that?
To vote to,
A roll call would be good.
A voice vote is fine.
okay.
Okay.
I so moved then.
And
I
second?
second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
It's only fair.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, now we'd like to have an approval of the minutes.
So moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we've accepted our minutes. Now we have public hearing. And actually, do I need to turn this over to you? Yes. Very good.
Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission, the first item on the agenda is actually going to be presented by the City Public Works Department. I'm just going to turn that right over to them. It's a general plan amendment that requests some amendments, minor amendments to the city's circulation element, minor text amendments. But the bulk of the presentation, the bulk of what we'll discuss tonight is the proposed bike and ped plan that the city's prepared with the help of a consultant. And again, Public Works staff will present that to the Planning Commission.
Richard, do you want to come up and sit here? Or present from there, wherever you're more comfortable.
So good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I am here to present the Daly City Pedestrian Bicycle Master Plan update. So just a little bit of background before I turn it over to our consultant. Back in 2004, the city adopted its first bicycle master plan. However, at that time, it only included bicycle improvements. It did not include pedestrian improvements. So in 2013, the city did a update to that plan, which included pedestrian improvements as well as bicycle improvements. So in 2013, the city staff used the master plan to go after grant funds. And fortunately, we were fairly successful in getting a lot of grant money to implement a lot of the projects that was indicated in the 2013 master plan. So right around 2016, 2017, we started running out of projects to do. And so we went after another grant to update the 2013 Pedestrian Bicycle Master Plan. In 2017, we were successful in receiving a grant to help us update the existing master plan. And so in 2018, the city selected Eisen and Latunik, along with their consultant Parisi, to update our 2013 master plan. 2018 started the kickoff of the Walk Bike Daly City. And during the early part of 2018, most of the work that was done was analyzing our existing conditions, looking at the planning documents in regards to pedestrian bicycle mobility. They also looked at the collision history as well. In the latter part of 2018, we did a massive public outreach campaign asking the public what type of improvements that you need, where do you have problems, how do you have difficulty biking or walking. And so through that process, there was about 800 individual comments that was received from the public. So that brings us to 2019. 2019 was mostly the time spent by our consultants putting the document together, reviewing the comments from the public, making recommendations, looking into a few locations where we did more detailed analysis. And once they put together a draft public master plan, we released that to the public for review. That was released in December of 2019. And that that public commenting period closed in January of 2020. So that brings us to today. At this point, I'd like to introduce Nico with Eisen and Letunik, and he'll go over some of the details of the plan itself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Nico Letunik with Eisen Letunik, and I am the lead planning consultant on the Walk Bike Plan. Richard gave a very good overview of the planning process, and I have a short presentation for you tonight. Thank you. I was actually about to look for it. That will just give you an overview of the planning process, which and the contents of the plan, both of which reflect each other. And my presentation, as you'll see, follows the same sequence as the planning process and as the contents of the plan. So as Richard mentioned, the first step in the process was to look at the planning context that surrounds walking and biking in Daly City. Just trying to understand, again, what influences walking and biking. We did an analysis of traffic collisions, for example. We looked at how many people are walking and biking, looked at key destinations, what does the street network look like, what is the interaction between walking, biking, and transit, what are some of the other planning efforts that have been done in recent years, both at the city level but also at the county level, regional level, that might have a bearing on walking and biking in Daly City. So we looked at the general plan, for example, and a number of other ones as well. Once we were done with that task, and these are some of the items that we looked at as part of our survey. Once we were done with that task, we went ahead and did the community needs assessment, which again, Richard mentioned. And the purpose was to go out to the community and hear from them what their concerns are. To me, they're the real experts on what needs to be improved. I'm a consultant. I can tell you, if you tell me what the problem is, I can give you some potential solutions, but I can't tell you what the problem is because I don't live here. I don't spend my days walking and biking on the streets. And so that's why it's really important to go out to the community and hear from them. And the main ways in which we did it were we had an online survey, we had an interactive pinnable map where people can pin location-specific comments. They can also respond to people's comments. They can read each other's comments. We had a project website, walkbikedalycity.org. We tabled at approximately a dozen special events and also at the farmers market, at the Daly City and Colma BART stations. We put up display boards and comment cards at approximately 12 locations around the city. So it was a pretty extensive outreach effort, and as a result, like Richard said, we got almost 800 comments from the public. So those 800 comments gave us a really good idea of what is on people's minds. This is just a graphic that I don't need to get into specifically, but just to give you the sense that we analyzed the comments that people gave us. And on the walking side, I would say that people's main concerns, and this won't be a huge surprise, but the main concerns had to do with speeding traffic, aggressive driving, distracted driving, and unsafe or challenging intersections to cross. For pedestrians, these were the main issues. Daly City is a pretty built-out city, and so it has a pretty good sidewalk system, for example. In some communities that we work in, a lot of the needs have to do with actually putting in sidewalks. That was not the case here in Daly City. A lot of it really had to do with improving intersections. That's where a lot of the conflicts happen with cars. On the cycling side, it was similar. Again, the main concerns had to do with speeding traffic, aggressive driving, distracted driving, and then also just a lack of on-street facilities that felt safe, that felt comfortable for people. So having heard from the public and having a fairly good idea of what people's general concerns were, but also what the specific locations of concern were, we went ahead and put together a list of priority improvements. Again, as Richard mentioned, we're looking for kind of the next generation of projects, the next generation of improvements that will facilitate walking and biking in Daly City. On the pedestrian side, a lot of it had to do with, again, improving challenging intersections. On the bicycling side, the priority improvements had to do with making some of the streets safer for cyclists by creating more room for bike lanes and protecting them from speeding traffic next to them. Let me just back up. So we had a pretty good sense of where the locations were that people were concerned about. Not surprisingly, these tend to be the main thoroughfares in town. For one thing, they tend to be the ones where most of the key destinations are. This is where everybody wants to go, not just drivers, but pedestrians and cyclists as well. And also, they happen to be the most direct ones. You know, Daly City's hilly. It doesn't have a really a neat street grid system, and so there's just only so many routes to get to the key destinations. So it was things like, you know, Junipero Serra Boulevard, John Daly Boulevard, Mission Street, Serramani, just kind of the usual suspects. And so the question was, what do we do with these at these locations? Our sub-consultant, Parisi, they happen to be traffic engineers. I'm more on the planning side. They came up with a number of conceptual designs for these locations, and that is the subject of one of the chapters in the plan. So we looked at these locations and said, what specifically can we do to them? Now, I'm going to give you kind of the punchline, which is that for a lot of these, it requires taking out a travel lane in order to create more room for, say, a wider bike lane with buffering or with protection from traffic with a curb, for example. These are always, you know, controversial projects when you try to reduce traffic capacity. And so these projects will require another level of review if they are to move forward. So the city will have to do more detailed traffic impact studies. How exactly will removing a traffic lane impact congestion? And they'll also have to do project-specific outreach because community buy-in will be absolutely essential if these projects are to succeed. So this is just a heads up that, you know, further down the road, you might hear about these projects again because they will require more study. You know, again, this is a master plan level, so we couldn't go to that level of detail. The locations where we're proposing some of these more aggressive interventions are, of the 7 locations, 4 along John Daly Boulevard. It's at the BART station, it's at Junipero Serra Boulevard, it's between Junipero Serra Boulevard and Sheffield, and then it's at the Skyline intersection. And the reason why so many projects are on Daly Boulevard is for 2 reasons. One, it is a very important thoroughfare, lots of key destinations, gets lots of use by drivers, by cyclists, by pedestrians, but also because the main projects that were not implemented from the previous plan happened to be on John Daly, so they needed to be looked at again. In addition, there's 3 other locations, Mission Street, Market Street, San Pedro Road. That is kind of a very irregular intersection with lots happening. I would say the same thing about Junipero Serra and San Pedro Road. And then Serramani Boulevard at Highway 1 is where you have some of the highway on and off ramps, that's an issue in Daly City, whether it's Highway 1 or 280, and that's reflected on the list. Let's see. Then having looked at specific locations, again, our subconsultant did a design toolkit. So this is kind of more general in nature. It doesn't look at specific locations, but it just says these are the kinds of treatments that you can do at a location that meets these criteria. And so the design toolkit includes guidelines, standards for pedestrian facilities, for bicycle facilities, and then also for just more general things that you can do on a street to make them safer and friendlier for cyclists and pedestrians. So on the pedestrian side, some examples are the design toolkit talks about how do you design a good bulb out or a good pedestrian island, a refuge, a median. On the cyclist side is how do you provide a buffered bike lane? So it's not just, it's not just a lane, a line painted on the street, but how do you provide a buffer between the cyclists and the cars? How do you provide separation? So it just kind of gets more into the details of the facilities. And then acknowledging that infrastructure is not the only way to improve conditions for walking and cycling. One chapter looks at these, what we call supporting actions. So these are non-infrastructural things that the city could do to promote walking and cycling. We decided to focus on 5. There's probably 1,000 things that the city could do, but this is a way to kind of focus the city's efforts and channel efforts toward things that could provide more bang for the buck. One of them is parklets, which is a way to create places for pedestrians to interact socially. These are, I don't know how familiar you are with them, but these are they're platforms that are built in the parking areas, so you usually take up 1 or 2 parking spaces and create an area with benches, with landscaping, with seating, you can have cafes, whatever. The second one is a bike parking ordinance. The city currently does not have one, so this would require developers, when they propose a new project that meets certain criteria, to put in bicycle parking. A third one is like I said, many of the concerns have to do with driver behavior, and the question is, how do you address that? It usually boils down to more enforcement, but then that brings up issues of staffing the police department, and it just kind of turns into a bigger kind of ball of wax. And so we're looking at other ideas for how to do that, and some of the ideas have to do with the city coming up with a safe driving pledge, which encourages citizens to get to be more mindful of driver safety. And kind of a related one is there's several new companies that are creating software that tracks your driving behavior and tells you how good or how safe or unsafe of a driver you are. So it looks at, are you speeding? Are you hard braking, for example? Are you making abrupt maneuvers? And so it scores you. And it's just a way to turn the process into a game. And there's prizes. There was actually an article the day I kind of was putting that chapter together, an article came out in the New York Times about the safest driver in LA, and she won a contest, prize money because of this app competition. And then the last one, the last 2 are kind of formalizing the city's traffic calming efforts and kind of making it easier for neighborhoods to petition the city for improvements on their streets. And the last one is coordinating with private developers to either implement projects that are in the plan that are adjacent or within kind of a development area, or developing pedestrian and bicycle friendly siting guidelines, architectural design guidelines, and so on. And then a number of appendices to the plan, just kind of more detailed background information. So for example, the appendices include all the 800 comments that we got. It makes for pretty interesting reading. At this point, we're not asking for the Planning Commission to recommend approval to the City Council. The purpose is mostly to, A, keep you informed as to what's going on, because the plan does have planning implications. And then also, but then the formal request is to amend the general plan to include the policies, the more specific policies and tasks that we updated from the previous general plan as part of this process. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have some questions.
Yes.
Very good. A couple things, because the area, we're probably all very familiar with the streets that you're discussing. And in reviewing the last, I would say, in 50 years for me, over 50 years, I've seen it where it's gone from calm traffic, just people leaving home, going to work, to heavy traffic where it's almost as if people get off from Mission or from East Market onto San Pedro, and to them, they're already on the freeway. So the mentality of the driving of those people are just, get me to the freeway. And so, especially at rush traffic in the morning, in the evening, and I'd be curious if you could share with us other communities where you've this has actually gone into effect into highly congested areas, like I'm explaining, and how that turned around. Because I'm trying to figure out, there's not many other ways for people to get on the freeway if they're trying to get to the freeway, or they're going to go up Mission, or they're going to cut, they may then, if there's less road space, are they going to cut through the neighborhoods to get themselves, to top of the hill, to down John Daly? I can't imagine. I mean, I think it was great. I think I shared this with them at one point a while ago. I try to ride my bike from home to work, and it's pretty much in the area you're talking. And I did it one time. And when I did it, I feared for my life because most people who were driving were looking at their cell phones from here to there, and they never lifted their eyes. So I just waited until the lights were red, and then I got to the next stop. But I'm concerned about traffic. So the other hand is, yes, it sounds nice. This sounds nice. That looks nice. Where do the cars go? That's my concern. And if we take one lane out, where do the cars go? That's it.
I have to also share something also. What I'm noticing on Mission Street now, yes, there is a lot of traffic, and most of that, and there's, you're talking about, bicyclists. They are going on Hillside because of the heavy traffic on Mission. Now that Mission is somewhat getting congested, that traffic is going on Hillside, and now, those bicyclists could get hit, because now what I'm noticing now is that there's a lot of reckless drivers going on Hillside, and that's quite a heavily residential area. And that is my concern, because when you go out, your chances of getting hit are getting higher. And bicyclists too you should really see them when those cars come, and they will dodge on the sidewalk right there, and I fear that. So if that could be also addressed, because it looks like Hillside is becoming now congested with traffic.
Yes, I guess what we're trying to say is, if you have done a project where it's followed all the way through, where they were highly congested, and then you take away one lane, what has been the outcome?
So it is it's a question with many parts to it. Let me just say a few things off the top of my head. First of all, if conditions are highly, highly congested, it's very likely that a traffic impact study will show that, no, you cannot take away a lane of traffic. And so the project will not move forward the way that it is recommended right now. However, the way that those conceptual designs were done, it includes improvements for both cyclists and pedestrians. Let's not forget the pedestrian side. On the I think the pedestrians are really important here in Daly City. Let's not forget that there are many, many more people who walk rather than bike in Daly City, and that will continue to be the case into the foreseeable future. That's why we're calling it the walk-bike plan as opposed to bike-walk. Just kind of an acknowledgement of that. A lot of the pedestrian improvements are easier to do because you're not necessarily taking away lanes of traffic. You are perhaps tightening the turning radius, so when people are turning, they're not going quite as fast. They're just slowing down to do that. And so that has a general improvement without having an impact on traffic. And then anything, sometimes when there are no clear ways to improve conditions for cyclists, the very best thing you can do for cyclists is to improve conditions for pedestrians. Because the more pedestrian friendly that you make a street, drivers get visual cues that they need to be slowing down, that there's people walking around, that there's people with children, that there's elderly people trying to cross the street. And to the extent that you slow down traffic, that improves conditions for cyclists, even if you can't make that facility for them. I would say that that's kind of my general answer.
No, I think it's great. And then they'll clean up the sidewalks because they're sticky all the way up Mission Street. That would be nice. That's one of my little pet peeves. Your feet get
We
stuck.
did get a lot of comments about litter and issues.
Garbage, and, yeah.
I think this has to be very carefully weighed with other parts of the general plan. I remember back in the early 2000s, before I was appointed to the Planning Commission, I served on the General Plan Steering Committee. And when we surveyed, and we had a fairly good response to the survey, the citizens of the town, after the number one issue of most concern, parking, was the lack of a downtown, i.e. Mission Street, and accessibility to Mission Street. So while this sets out maybe in an ideal world, like you have stressed, a traffic study would have to be done, because the one thing people wanted when they responded to that survey was more and greater access, traffic-driven access to like Mission Street. So, and you run into the same thing around Serramonte because people want to get into the parking lots. And so there's got to be a balance that's reached. There are some really good thoughts in this. I took the time to read it, and it's one of the better jobs. I must compliment you on the job you guys did. It really is a good report. But we've got to make sure that we fit everybody's needs to the best we can. There is no ideal situation for either side here.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Very, very good. And I will say, the walking, I like that, so that even if we start with that it's safer. I will say a lot of the lighting too. I mean, I would guess you would be addressing that, because at certain times, turning from East Market on Mission, you don't catch people. Even if you're being careful, you must have already seen that.
Many comments about that, and
Yeah.
there are several mentions of that in the plan as well.
The lighting,
Yeah,
and also on
lighting at
San Pedro
intersections.
Road, even though they put the light to cross, there's sometimes where you can't see people. You just can't. And if there's a little
Especially the
fog, it's over.
in the city, yeah.
And even if there's no fog, it gets, depending on how large the moon is.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. So if this is all part of looking at people walking and getting out there, I agree that you did a good job on the report.
I agree too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'd just like to add that, thank you for bringing up a lot of the issues of concern. There is no one solution to solving these problems. It's going to involve multiple components of it, and in addition to the walk, bike, Daly City plan, we have a lot of other plans in the works in terms of safety issues, driving, and how to address those issues. And so at that time, when it gets closer to an actual project, it will be thoroughly reviewed, examined, studied, And again, we'll work with some of the other studies that we're doing, like Vision Zero and all of those things that have multiple facets of, trying to improve this type of situation, because it's only going to get worse. I mean, Daly City is just getting more and more dense. So there's a lot of things to think about. Who would have thought San Francisco Market Street is closed down?
I know.
So there's a lot of things to think about, but be assured that when the time comes, it will be thoroughly looked at and reviewed for all users.
Absolutely.
Richard, I think that it's very much like the ideal settlement in court. Neither side is overly pleased, but everybody can live with it. And that's what you look for.
Absolutely. And we do have some bike lanes in Daly City currently. How are those coming along? I mean, I've seen them, but I've never seen a bike on them.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, a lot of the bike lanes, shared bike routes have been implemented. One of the things that we discovered with a lot of the public outreach that we did for this Ped Bike Master Plan was the desire to enhance and improve those facilities to make them more comfortable for riders. So as part of a lot of the recommendations that Nico provided with this plan is ideas and ways how we can make our existing bike lanes better, make it so that people feel more comfortable so that they can use it. And so that's a lot of the focus on this new plan, is in terms of enhancing those facilities so that people do feel more comfortable and more willing to use those.
well, sounds great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Do we have a card for this?
We don't, actually. We have something for second. So I
Well,
think we're
then-
moving forward then?
I move we close the public hearing.
There we go.
Do we have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. So now we're looking at our second,
No?
Nope. I'm sorry.
Number three.
We are. We've done the motion and the vote. Recommend that the Planning Commission forward to the City Council the following recommendation. Adopt the findings as outlined herein. Do I have a
So
motion?
moved.
Second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Recommend that the City Council affirm the environmental assessment and recommend that the City Council approve General Plan Amendment GPA 01201442. May I have a motion?
So moved.
I second.
And may we have roll call, please?
Crump,
Aye.
Pacheco,
Aye.
Proaño,
Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
No problem.
keep me honest. Okay, so now we're going to move, thank you again for coming. Thank you. And
Thanks,
thank you
Richard.
so much, Richard. Thank you. So our second is the use permit, UPR 0619014076, and design review, DR 0619014077. The application to construct a new mixed-use building on a .37 acre property located at the northwest corner of Sullivan Avenue and Eastmore Avenue. The proposed building consists of 72 affordable apartments in a 7-story building with podium-level parking and 1,196 square feet of, turn the page, street-level retail slash office. The project includes a reconfiguration of the northwest corner of the Sullivan slash Eastmore intersection to remove the existing southbound free right turn movement by reducing the curb radius at the
Right.
corner. And Michael?
Thank you, Honorable Chair, members of the Planning Commission. This is a use permit and design review for a 72-unit affordable mixed-use building at 493 Eastmore Avenue in the location that Commissioner Proaño described. The Planning Commission may recall this site from 2016, at which time the Planning Commission and City Council approved a 34-unit condominium building on the same property. This was a 5-story building, also mixed use, approved at the time, but it obviously has not been constructed. There were some financial implications of the underground parking garage that could not be overcome. and the developer at the time did not complete the project. And so Core Affordable Housing has taken a look at the property and proposed, again, the project before the Planning Commission tonight. Again, the site is located at the northwest corner of Eastmore Avenue and Sullivan Avenue. The site is within the Sullivan Corridor specific plan area and is designated service commercial by the specific plan. This is a photo looking northward at the site from Eastmore Avenue. Again, it's a vacant site. The adjacent uses are apartments. I think we have a separate slide on adjacent uses to the west, and there's a vacant office building to the north of the project site. This is a photo of the adjacent apartment complex to the west. And this is a photo of the adjacent vacant office building located to the north of the project site. The CVS pharmacy is located on the far right side of this photo. The Planning Commission may recall the building to the right, or the building that's in the middle of this photo, 1784 Sullivan's been approved itself for, I believe, 21 apartments. That project, of course, has not yet begun, but it's in plan check. So
It is in plan.
it is in plan check, yes. The overview of this project is that is located on a .34 acre vacant lot. It's a former Shell gas station. The site has undergone some remediation activity, and there's a condition of approval requiring that the county issue a final sign-off on that prior to construction. There are a total of 72 units proposed. 35 of those would be studio apartments, 36 would be one-bedroom apartments, and one of the units would be a two-bedroom apartments. So again, 72 units total. This equates to about 200 units to the acre, so a fairly dense project. 100% of the units are affordable and would be subject to a 55-year deed restriction. And this is an important point we provide a bullet for because it does qualify the project for state density bonus concessions, as well as, due to its proximity to the Coleman BART station, reduced parking. And those are some things we'll cover in a slide that's forthcoming. In addition to the residential uses, there's about 1,200 square feet of street-level retail or office space that's proposed at the Sullivan Avenue frontage. As indicated previously, the project includes a reconfiguration of the northwest corner of the intersection that's adjacent to the project, which removes an existing southbound right free turn movement. It essentially reduces the curb radius at this corner. The purpose for this improvement is that it would increase pedestrian safety at the intersection. We created a slide just for this to show exactly what would be changed. So this is the existing, of course, photo. As we proceed southbound on Sullivan Avenue, there is a free right, so there is no need for motorists to actually stop here aside from the pedestrian crossing. And the proposed project would essentially retain a dedicated right-hand turn lane at this location, but the free right would be eliminated essentially. So you would need to stop if you were going to proceed westbound on Eastmore Avenue. And this graphic just shows the landscaping that would replace that. So again, there would still be a dedicated right-hand turn lane, but free rights would not be allowed. And again, this is to increase pedestrian safety at this intersection. The next few slides just go through the floor plans of the building. This is the first floor, and this would provide the approximate 1,200 square feet of commercial space at this location. One of the conditions of approval that we've added is that the applicant work with the staff to, or actually amend the project plans rather, to provide some tenant improvements at this commercial in the commercial space. We want to make it so that the commercial space is actually leasable, and we're concerned with if it's just a shell and there's no commitment to actually installing, for example, a bathroom, it would make it more difficult to lease it. And so we want to see some additional improvement here. So there is a condition of approval related to the commercial space. Anyway, this is the first floor. As we proceed through the floors of the building, the parking, and we have a separate slide on parking, that is proposed is actually at the second floor, It's accessible here at Eastmore Avenue, so there's only a single access at Eastmore Avenue, so this would provide ingress and egress. The project architects worked with the city engineer to move this access point as far away from the intersection as possible, thereby maximizing the safety and reducing vehicular conflict with the cars that are traveling in Eastmore Avenue, east and west. So again, this is the parking garage. Some bike parking also located here. On the third floor are 12 apartments. This is where the residential use actually starts. 12 apartments, courtyard, podium courtyard, and the community room and the mail room are all located on the third floor. Fourth floor is 15 apartments, and there's a fitness room located here. And then the fifth through the seventh floors are the same, and we've just combined them on the same slide, as they are essentially the same floor plan, and they each provide 15 apartments plus laundry facilities to serve the residents of the building. This screen shows a perspective rendering from the Eastmore and Sullivan intersection. The project architecture is, we think, actually an improvement over the previous proposal. Just a little bit more contemporary in nature. The previous architecture did have some comment at the city council hearing, and we do think this is an improvement over it. Again, this is, however, a taller building. The previously approved building was a 5-story building, and again, this is a 7-story building, so a little taller, but it does fit in with the context of the adjacent buildings. The site, of course, is not flat, so the increase in the height is essentially seen here the most near the northern portion of the site. But again, fairly attractive building, good amount of articulation. The windows that would be provided are vinyl, although staff has added a condition of approval that first floor retail space do receive aluminum windows. This is the vehicular entrance to the building here. This is a perspective drawing of the building from Eastmore Avenue, essentially just moved a little bit more west. Again, showing the interface of what's essentially a 6-story building adjacent to the adjacent apartments here. So it's a bigger building, but it's been masked well, and we do believe it fits into the site quite well. We prepared some slides to explain some of the details of the project. We're going to start with the affordability because this is an important slide. It does qualify the project for, again, a significant amount of reduced parking, as well as some concessions that are necessary to allow the project to be built. So again, this is a 100% affordable housing development. It's a rental product. There's a 55-year deed restriction that would be placed on the affordability. The city's affordable housing ordinance applies to this project, and the project does have an approved affordable housing plan. And that plan requires that 7 of the 72 units be affordable to incomes at less than 70% of the annual median income. Of those 7, 3 would be studio apartments and 4 would be 1-bedroom apartments. So even though the entire project's affordable, 7 of the units are specifically targeted toward the maximum income requirements of the city's affordable housing ordinance. The current rents for studio apartments, and these are again estimates based on current AMI, annual median income, are for studio apartments between $1,200 and $1,450. Current rents for 1-bedroom apartments would be between $1,350 and $1,650.
That's great. The running.
Sometimes a question comes up about what affordability means, bottom line, and that's what that information is attempting to portray. And lastly, the project affordability qualifies the project for a parking reduction under Assembly Bill 744. The project that's located to the north at 1784 Sullivan received the same parking reduction. And the affordability levels that would be set for all of the units would be based on the calculations provided by the State of California Health and Safety Code. and consistent with the rent limits published by the Department of Housing and Community Development, State Housing and Community Development. So the city staff and the developer will work on the specific affordability levels to ensure that the project continues to qualify for the AB 744 parking reduction. So due to its affordability, the project does qualify for state density bonus law concessions, and the applicants requested, and the staff is recommending that the Planning Commission and City Council grant 2 reductions. The first being a reduction in open space to 74 square feet per unit. The city zoning ordinance requires 150 square feet per zoning, or per unit, 150 square feet of open space per unit, so essentially half is what is proposed. I think we discussed in the floor plans where those areas would be devoted. There's a podium level community area, fitness room, et cetera. So the second concession the applicant's requesting is an authorization to increase the maximum FAR, the floor area ratio for the project, from 3 to 4.4.1. The Sullivan Corridor specific plan establishes an FAR of 3, so a maximum building size of 3 times the site size, and the applicant's proposing a building that is 4.41. And the pretense of this increase is that it is what the FAR is what is needed to make this project pencil, essentially, and therefore qualifying it for a concession under state law. Again, staff is recommending approval of both these concessions. We wanted to get a little bit into the AB 744 parking reduction, and this slide does that and explains the overall amount of parking provided, because it is significantly less than what would be normally required. The project in the parking garage that we showed at the second floor provides 36 parking spaces. So 95 parking spaces are normally required. So this is a smaller fraction that's normally required. Back in 2000, I believe it was 17, the state legislature passed Assembly Bill 744. This reduced the parking required for affordable housing projects that were all rental and all units serving low-income families to 0.5 spaces per unit, and required that any project that received this parking reduction needed to be within 1/2 mile of a major transit stop. Of course, a BART station does qualify this project for that, and more specifically the Colma BART station. Project is within that proximity and therefore, again, qualifies for the reduction. So when we apply the 0.5 to 72 apartments, we come up with, of course, 36 parking spaces. The project also includes about 1,200 square feet of retail at 300 square feet, 1 parking space per 300 square feet of that retail. So 4 parking spaces are required for that, which brings the total number of required spaces up to 40. If we apply the city's 20% mixed-use parking reduction, the number of parking spaces then equates to 32 parking spaces. So there are a number of reductions that are going on here. The Assembly Bill 744 parking reduction and the mixed-use parking reduction that's granted by the city's zoning ordinance. So that equates to the 32 spaces. And the last bullet is communicating that 6 of those 32 spaces would be accessible to the public for retail and office uses. So those would be in front of any sort of a gate that the applicant may try and install to ensure that parking is reserved for residents of the building. In terms of general plan and specific plan conformity, we wanted to spend a little time on that. Again, this project is on a site that's designated by the Sullivan Corridor Plan as service commercial. The service commercial requires a use permit for a residential use, a mixed-use building. The specific plan identifies that any use is allowed in the retail and office, the commercial retail and office designation are allowed on service commercial designated parcels subject to use permit approval. If we look at the CRO designation, it allows a variety of uses and any residential uses. So the residential uses at the density proposed do require a use permit, and of course that's before the Planning Commission tonight. Both the specific plan and general plan contain policies that encourage the addition of residential development and mixed-use projects to parcels that are in close proximity to, for example, the Colma BART station. The general plan specifically stipulates that the city should provide regulatory incentives to developers to construct higher density mixed-use development at locations that are close to public transit. So this project certainly would qualify under that general plan policy HE3. And there are a number of other general plan policies that support development at this density, at this location. We just highlighted a couple. The project is exempt from CEQA because it's an infill development. It's served by adequate infrastructure and is less than 5 acres in size. There's a number of caveats to being exempt from CEQA, and this project is exempt. Staff is recommending the Planning Commission forward the use permit and design review to the City Council for approval. The applicant, of course, is present tonight. The architect's present, and they are willing and able to answer any questions, as is city staff. Any questions the Planning Commission may have. That concludes our presentation.
So a couple questions, please, and thank you. It was really nice to see apartments at the rate that people are renting out a one room in their homes. So the price is nice. But I just had a couple questions. How do you, so people would apply and it's a lotto kind of thing for when the housing is ready? Who has the answer? How do people, would this be one of those ones where they would apply?
Oh, the lottery.
Lottery and all that? I'm sorry. Hi,
Good
welcome.
evening. Thank you for having us. My name is Chris Neal. I'm with Core Affordable Housing. Typically what happens is we get influxed with requests about renting at affordable units. And recently, unfortunately, that by the time you're completed, you're actually leasing up the building effectively in 1 or 2 months because the demand is so high. So we establish a process, we put out a web page. When we get close to completion, we start reaching out to the residents who are on the interest list. And if there's more demand than units, which typically has been recently, hopefully that changes, then we create priority lists and we create a lottery
Perfect.
to try to provide an equitable opportunity for everybody.
Perfect.
And if I may interject, one of the requirements for this project will be that the developer enters into an affordable housing agreement with the city, and that will specify how the units are marketed and how they're made available for rent.
If I could ask, we've been working with the housing department, and through that outreach, we were going back and forth, should it be designated for seniors, so an age-restricted community, or as designed, which is open to all age ranges, and kind of with the feedback from the housing department and given the needs of the community, right? The goal is to target as many residents who live or work in Daly City, to minimize the impact on traffic, to maximize the access to the transportation. You know, we've actually reached out to the school to the north, to the west.
To the west.
And try to see how is there overlap with our target incomes that we're trying to achieve here and their employment base, and try to see how we get access, their employment base as well as others in education.
Nice, very nice. And the parking, since it's so minimal, is that also going to be some sort of a, people who say, okay, I don't have a car, I don't need it, and then the people who say they need it, then is it a lotto as well? How does that work?
We've had a lottery before. Usually there's a parking management plan, and in prior projects we've had success where the commercial use, what works well is usually the cars are gone during the day, which is when the commercial needs it, and then when the commercial hours are done, the residents come back. And so, that's why there's an efficient way to use the 32 parking spaces, and then we'll use a lottery for the residents for cars.
And so in case people have not heard of it, it's a 55-year deed. Could you explain that for people to listen?
So I believe the city requires it, but also there's a 7-layer cake of financing to finance affordable housing. The reason why they're able to be rented at such a low rent is that we're able to get resources from the state of California, tax credits. We've actually already applied to the County of San Mateo, who support the project, and we already have a commitment of some funds from the County of San Mateo. And so with all those funding sources and all the public funds, there will be a deed recorded on title for everybody to know of interest in the property that there is a requirement that these units are have restricted rents for a 55-year term. And there is actually a lot of oversight on every given year. You have reviews and audits from the TCAC, which is the California Tax Credit Allocation Committee, and San Mateo County. So it's all different sort of, and probably the city as well, I would imagine. So there's a lot of, it's really a great example of a public-private partnership where there's good public agency oversight, but then you also have an economically motivated tax credit equity investor who also needs to make sure that the rents are in compliance with the deed restriction. And it's that 55 years that ensures that those rents, subject to annual increases, will be targeted for those AMIs, area median incomes, for 55 years.
Thank you. I think sometimes people, you hear about it and they're trying to figure out how that works, so thank you very much. Gentlemen,
Gary?
anything?
I would like to add a condition of approval, very simply. I really like the building. I like the architecture of it. I thoroughly dislike the color of the palette, and I'll tell you why. We live in a community that spends an awful lot of its time under gray skies. A couple of weeks ago, I was driving up John Daly on a very foggy day and looked at the new senior housing complex that it has a lot of white in it, like this does, on a gray day. It's very cold and kind of almost forbidding in the look. It's not welcoming. This is a major corner, and just to the north of it, you have both Peninsula and Del Rey, and the big CVS store, which is really handy for this unit. It's walked to, and it's really well stocked. But they are in a warmer palette, and I would like a condition of approval whereby we request that they submit a warmer color palette for the building.
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
I understand the fog. There you go.
Yeah, I live in it.
Okay.
Okay, do we
It's a
have
good
any
project.
cards for this?
We do have a card. Somebody thought I forgot, huh? I want to make sure it is. So I'd like to welcome Alex Melendez-Drez, R-E-Z.
Yes, Melendrez.
Welcome.
Well, thank you. Hello, Honorable Daly City Planning Commission and city staff. My name is Alex Melendrez, and I'm representing the Housing Leadership Council of San Mateo County. We are a nonprofit that works with communities and their leaders to produce and preserve quality, affordable homes. As an organization that seeks to create the most amount of affordable housing at the deepest levels of affordability, this proposal has our full support. As somebody who does this, regularly for a living, goes around talking about affordable housing, what you have here is very unique. To be able to provide this level of affordability, low, very low, extremely low, at this quantity is an opportunity that really cannot be missed.
Need more.
These 72 affordable homes can, and I believe will, be an example for Daly City to create equity and promote continued diversity. But it's going to be more to that, to the families and individuals who are going to call it home. It's going to mean that people can cook for themselves, live independent lives, have a roof over their head, and rest their head at night. And it's a future that many, unfortunately, in this county do not have time to wait for. We urge the Daly City Planning Commission to move forward with CORE's proposed affordable housing without delay in order to reach that desirable future sooner. HLC would like to thank the Daly City Planning Commission and the city staff for their leadership on this, and we look forward to seeing this proposal positively transform lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On that note, I move we close the public hearing.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There we go. I would like to say I'd like to see more of this. So this is wonderful to see this. Makes me happy.
Well, we've got this, and then tomorrow, they're breaking ground for the
Ceremony Del Rey, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
For the teachers.
That's 100 and what, 20 some odd units?
Me too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is a great project. It's, I think it's going to be, finally, that spot will be filled.
Isn't that
It's been-
amazing?
It's been empty for.
You
Forever.
don't like the empty lot with the weeds growing in it?
No.
I just want to say thank you for letting us have the opportunity to say, so we can vote on it.
Okay.
So with that, we have closed our public hearing. Now we'd like to recommend, it's recommended that the Planning Commission forward to the City Council the following recommendation. With the color palette to be revisited, if you don't
With
mind.
the amended conditions?
Yes, please. Warmer colors, please. And with that, adopt the findings as outlined herein.
So
Motion-
moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Got it. Recommend that the city council affirm the environmental assessment. We'd like a motion.
So moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Here we go. I just turned my page. I got to get to the right place. Use permit, no,
Yeah.
that was one, right?
That's, no. Look. You were
1, 2, 3, 4,
five.
5, 6. Is that right?
Yes.
I don't want to be in the wrong spot. Recommend that the city council approve use permit UPR 0619014076 and design review DR 0619014077, subject to the conditions of.
Amended conditions.
Amended conditions, yes, sir. Identified herein, the color palette. We'd like to have a motion.
So moved.
I second.
Okay, let's have a roll call.
Crump,
Aye.
Pacheco,
Aye.
Proano.
Aye.
Perfect.
Awesome. Those who are here for the project, thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. Great
you very
project.
much.
We love it. Thank you. Good job. Thank you. Okay, moving forward. Thank you. The use permit. I just did that.
Well, it should be 3.
Thank
so.
you. That was the confusion. So, number 3, use permit UPR 1019142237. The applicant to operate K9 CrossFit, a dog training studio at an existing first-floor commercial space at 2950 Geneva Avenue. Is that you?
Yep, that's
Okay.
me.
Okay, don't move. I got to finish reading this, and then then he's next, I guess.
Brian's next.
Brian's next, okay. The proposed business would operate in a G1 light commercial zone and therefore requires the approval of a use permit by the city of Daly City. Am I saying this all right? Okay, thank you. I heard some talk and I said, what am I reading wrong? Our staff, Brian, assistant planner, will be speaking for a second, then I think it's your turn.
Good
Brian,
evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. That would be a C1.
a C1.
The third item
That
before
would
you,
be a C1. Thank you for that correction.
the third item before you this evening is the use permit for K9 CrossFit located at 2950 Geneva Avenue. The applicant is proposing to use the existing building for an indoor dog training and boarding facility. The ground floor of the building was previously used as a nail salon. The upstairs contains 2 residential dwelling units. The subject property is located on a rectangular parcel mid-block between Oriente Street and Schwerin Street. The building occupies the front 2/3 of the parcel, leaving an open rear yard area of approximately 750 square feet. The proposed floor plan identifies an open indoor training room / play area of approximately 600 square feet at the rear. Additionally, an approximately 750 square foot outdoor play area is provided in the rear yard. In addition to the play area, the applicant proposes a reception, office, and boarding area of approximately 420 square feet located at the front of the facility. No exterior modifications to the building or additional floor area are proposed. Staff has reviewed the application for CEQA compliance and finds that it is categorically exempt per section 15301. Staff finds that the proposed use is compatible with the general plan and the zoning regulations of the light commercial district. And staff has added the following conditions. The facility shall be staffed by trained personnel whenever dogs are present. The number of dogs at the facility shall be limited to 12 between the hours of 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. and 8 dogs during overnight hours between 7 p.m. and 8 a.m. Use of the outdoor rear yard shall be limited to the hours of 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. The applicant shall install an artificial turf area that provides a 12-inch gravel subdrain to absorb odors. Oops, one more. The applicant shall ensure that all trash and refuse associated with the use shall be stored indoors until the day of trash collection. And staff recommends that the Planning Commission forward use permit UPR 5/18/13/470 to the City Council for approval. And I can answer any questions that you may have, and we also have the applicant available if
Very
if
good.
you would like.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I personally have just a couple questions. Number one, I understand there's residential above.
Yeah.
And I have a dog, and sometimes she likes to bark.
Yeah, dog.
So how would that work with regards to your building or your space and the above residential space?
Well, I mean, there's a dance studio next door that's extremely loud. They do like Tahitian drum circles. So compared to a dog barking, when they have a drum circle, it's very minor if noise was the issue. But secondly, I would screen a lot of the dogs. Most of the dogs, I personally go to dog shows, so my network is more show dogs. So people who work full time, when show season's coming up, I would just do like dog walking, practice conformation handling, keep the gait right. These dogs are used to traveling, used to being crated during the day. They're not necessarily there for separation anxiety or behavior modification or things of that nature to start with. But yes, an occasional bark when we're playing and you get them riled up, that will happen. But a constant is
No,
not.
You're not expecting that.
not what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Not
So
what I
there
do.
wouldn't be like extra, I don't want to say padding, but extra insulation in the building
You
between?
mean soundproofing in the ceiling?
Thank you, yeah.
Yeah. If it was needed, that could be done.
I'm just
issue.
saying if needed.
There's also electronic, like white noise canceling devices
Oh.
that you can use, and it sends like a frequency to like mitigate the noise.
Oh.
So I would invest in those as well.
Okay.
Yeah. We do have one, is it a little larger, right? Right there on top of the hill on Mission Street, and that one's, we haven't had any problems with the neighbors or, yeah. Sounds good.
I have nothing further to ask you.
Oh, okay. So you said that when the dogs go, on the floor, that will be brought inside, right?
Yeah.
The refuse will be brought
we-
inside, okay.
We'd pick it up.
We'll pick, all right,
Bag.
because,
Yeah.
okay, and what kind of dog training, what kind of training will be offered here?
Mostly obedience and
Obedience,
like
okay.
exercise. With the canine CrossFit, it's like a combination of dog walking, urban mushing, carting, work. Kind of depends on the breed, what the owner wants. But they'll get a variety. Like some of the dogs just get bored with the same little 20-minute walk around the neighborhood. Go to work for 8 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we do more hiking versus neighborhood walks. A couple days of the week, I'd use the equipment like the urban mushing rigs, dog scooters, have treadmills for the dogs, custom made, just variety of activities, to be honest with you.
Okay, all right.
And how long have you been doing this already? It sounds like
It's
you've
been
been doing
a
it.
hobby since I was probably like 18. I'm 31 now. I've had several champion show dogs of my own, helped several friends put performance titles on their dogs. I just went to the Golden Gate Dog Club at Cow Palace the weekend before last. Hobby that I'm trying to turn into a profession.
Nice.
Very good.
Yeah, I don't think we have any other questions.
I have nothing further.
We're good?
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it. Okay, so.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Oh, we've got some.
Oh, wait.
Oh, sorry. No motion.
I am so sorry. We do have two people here. First, I'd like to invite Rod Spikes up to speak. Wait a second. These two are about civic engagement.
For this item.
Huh?
They're not for this item.
No, here.
Okay, then wait.
One moment. Are you here for that?
Well, okay, good evening, Commissioner and City Council. I am proposed dog training sessions.
Oh, you want to talk about the dog training? Okay, this location? Okay. Did you fill one of these out?
Yes, we did. We sent them in already.
This says Westmore High School, and this one says Youth Leadership Institute.
State his name and then he can.
Oh, well,
fill.
okay. What is your name again, sir?
Okay, my name is Kevin, and then the part of the owner is a sweeping show. We bought the building next to that dog training last year, and used to be a Daly City Police Training Center. And then we planning this year to open for the child care center for taking care of the little infant and this and that. And also we planning to open training, like a little training class for the youngster too. The sense, if they have a dog, so many in the daytime and nighttime, it's not very feasible for us to take care of the child and those little babies in that area. Besides, the area is like a residential area. Most of the people there is not like a commercial, you know what I mean? The traffic is going to be terrible for them. And then if you got more than 12 dogs or 10 dogs, they will be barking and then running all over the place. Besides, the backyard is so small, very small. They only have fence. And if they taking the dog over to the shower and, training like this and that, it's going to create a problem. The drain, there's low drain going on in the sideway. And then there's smell, and nighttime too. If they got 8 dogs to be stay there overnight, they're going to create a lot of problem for us. We just bought that building last year, and then we're planning to do it for remodeling for this year for the baby child care. And it's not very feasible for us. For the residential area, we try to serve the community, the area for the people taking care of the little baby for daycare.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, first of all, you haven't applied for any planning and for anything with the city?
Well, we're planning this year because that's what we're starting at.
Right. Well, I will say that, in my own opinion, and it may mean nothing, all the dogs, it sounds like to me, I don't think we're expecting a lot of barking, and I'm just, babies also cry.
Do you
So
need that?
what if the babies cry and disturb the
You spoke
dogs?
to number 2.
You know what I'm saying? So you're building, I'm sure you're building,
We are next to them.
next to them. Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, there's plan there, so you wouldn't have to worry about the drainage and the grass and anything going, and they're going to have to keep it clean. So that's number one. And with the special drainage, it's not going to leave a smell because it goes down into the system. So that the smell shouldn't be a problem. And I'm guessing if there's a fence, that's already been addressed, correct? The fence, go
There's
ahead.
an existing fence.
There's an existing fence, and you guys have already reviewed it, I'm sure.
We've been out to the site.
And you've been to the site, okay.
To be honest with you, if you just talk to me, we could go on our hike during your guys' nap time or your quiet hours. We're off-site.
Yeah.
We'll go down and learn.
So, you-
dog park.
I'm concerned with the safety, if the dog running around there. And
oh, no, they're not going to be running around outdoors by
How
themselves.
many staff they have to take care of
Well,
that dog?
it states in the paperwork that they have to have staff 24 hours. So if there's someone
how many-
sleeping over,
Three
yeah,
of them?
three
Because
staff.
last time, I remember, last month, somehow, they were smoking.
who?
Well, some of the staff, over there, and they smoke marijuana. We were next to, how come we could smell coming in?
Yeah,
Okay, okay, okay.
Sign this up.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, yeah. It comes through.
He's had his time.
Yeah, right. I understand, yeah. So what I would recommend to you on my own is that you guys can speak together so that you guys work out sleep time when you have it, when your business does open, and I'm sure he sounds like he wants to work with you as a neighbor. Okay, so, absolutely. It sounds, right? I mean, it sounds like,
Well, I got puppy myself, but unfortunately, if you got so many at the same location like that, it's tough. Besides, there's a school.
right, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Good
no,
night.
we understand, but it sounds like they're not just getting a bunch of puppies. It sounds like they're getting
Yeah,
dogs,
other
show
big
dogs that know how to act. So that should be helpful to you. So we appreciate you coming through and speaking at this time.
Okay.
Okay?
Well, anyway,
Thank you for
Yeah.
coming. Thank you, sir.
Now a motion to close the public hearing.
Yes, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Recommend that the Planning Commission forward to the City Council the following recommendation. Adopt the findings as outlined herein.
So,
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Okay. Recommended that the City Council affirm the environmental assessment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Recommend that the City Council approve use permit UPR 1019-14237. May I have a motion?
I so moved.
Second.
Okay, and may we have
Sorry.
roll call, please?
Crump,
Aye.
Pacheco,
Aye.
Proano.
Aye. I would recommend, though, and I just, that you guys work with your community there. I'm sure you will. No problem.
Yeah.
We've passed it on, we've moved it on, and we wish you all the best, and if you can work with them, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have two cards here and some young people that are here that'd like to speak. Do we know anything about that? Am I confused?
Okay, yeah.
Allow the public to speak before staff communications.
We have one communication.
Okay.
item, but we can have the public.
Please, are you together? Do you want to, and you are Rod? Kiefer. Do you want to come up together? Yeah, come on, you're more than welcome.
And you each have 2 minutes.
And Kiefer, you have 2 minutes, and you have 2 minutes, and you are Rod, and you're Kiefer, and you are from Westmore High School?
Yep.
And you are, Rod, you are from the Youth Leadership Institute. Welcome. Thank you for coming.
All right. As you already know, my name's Kiefer. I am a part of YLI, and I am a student at Westmore. Earlier this year, we were talking about getting more youth voices out in the open, and we've already surveyed 318 youth at our school, and we asked them questions regarding transportation and housing and civil engagement. When it comes to civil engagement, we asked why weren't they currently involved in it, and we got a variety of barriers that were identified in the process. The main barrier that was identified was the fact that youth just didn't know how to involve themselves in local civil engagement. Youth also didn't know when meetings were held and what time as well. A large percentage of youth didn't even know what a city council, planning commission, or the board of supervisors were. our group came up with many recommendations, and I want to share a few out to you. And us youth expressed having focus groups where they could brought together to share their own voices or have opinions on issues on topics where city officials were planning to look at. We also expressed having more access to we also express having more access to information, for example, social media campaigns or using social platforms to send out information about the city is currently focusing on, or what the city or county's top priorities for the top coming years, and where youth can be useful. This could reach out to a lot of youth, and this has a lot of potential to create stronger collaborations and partnerships between youth and adult figures in their community and generate more youth involvement and when it comes to being critically engaged. And thank you for allowing me to speak about this topic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Rod, welcome.
Hi.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm fine. So thank you, Chair Member and Commissioners and City officials for having me be here today. I'm Rod Spikes. I'm one of the program coordinators for Youth Leadership Institute. I don't know if you ever heard of us, but we are a nonprofit organization within San Mateo County and also in SF that gets youth involved civically. And so I run the program at Westmore High School. Kiefer's one of my youth. I'm actually going to be going into Jefferson as well, doing some outreach. I have a youth group in Half Moon Bay as well. And so pretty much just kind of backing with Kiefer is saying, and one of our acts was to come to the Planning Commission Board to kind of help give recommendation on how to get more youth civically engaged with different processes, and that's going on. And so, as Kiefer stated, we did do a survey within Westmore High School, and a big thing was just like, about 74% of the youth felt like their voices weren't impactful when it comes to like civically or like local policy changes, but at the same time a large percentage of the same youth did feel like they were able to have working adult and youth partnerships. And so it's just about how do we make that happen. And so like Kiefer said, having focus group like things, not necessarily focus group because that's more sort of like quantitative data, but more so like just general like and for instance, like this K9 thing, like if they were like really trying to plan something, like get the youth perspective of it. So like you guys are going over things, looking over things, or that may impact youth in some way, or just the community in different ways. Like how can we get youth voices to see if that aligns with their like with priorities for them? Because I know a lot of the biggest priorities were like traffic, housing. The biggest thing was housing, and then actually Kiefer, along with two other youth, a part of our group, were part of the emergency ordinance that happened here actually. So they actually spoke to City Council, and they were actually helped to get that unanimous voting thing. So it's just about how we can create more opportunities for that. So that could be like a focus group or just different causes where you could reach out on social media, because a lot of youth do use social media, and so like maybe having like different memes or just different quick facts about this is what's happening in the city, this is what's happening around, this I could get involved. Just trying to like meet the youth where they're at and get them to be more engaged on platforms that they use more often. So yeah, that's kind of just what we were here for, to kind of express that and share a little bit of our findings and recommendations. So thank you guys for the time. And yeah.
Thank you so much. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate that.
Thank you. I think it's really, really important that you get the younger people. I find being the aged one on the Planning Commission, and also on the Crown Colony Homeowners Association, that there isn't a great deal of involvement in the younger generations. And one of the things you find you need are cross-generational views, because the generations look in different ways. So I encourage you to continue what you're doing, get the youth involved, and hopefully they'll remain involved in their neighborhoods and in their cities. And talk to the people up in the city manager's office, because there is a whole lot of stuff on the city's webpage.
No, yeah, definitely. So I actually just met with Supervisor Canepa today, and they also got a chance to meet with Supervisor Canepa to kind of go over a more detailed debrief about the findings and recommendations.
My God, and they can't even vote yet.
Like about how to get involved and stuff like that. And as far as like, and one of our biggest things, like increasing youth voter engagement, because we're doing like an IV and integrated voter engagement process. And so we've been like canvassing, doing some commitment cards and stuff like that to get more youth that are 16 and under to like promise to pre-register to vote. And then we have the 17 and older that are like able to vote, like say, hey, you're gonna go vote, or you're gonna get more information about like things that are happening in your city. So we do like a lot of candidate forums. So we'll be doing one coming up in the summer for the election that's happening in November. We'll going to be like working on census and stuff like that. But I've definitely been in contact with Supervisor Canepa about how we can get more youth involved. I know Daly City is shutting down the jail. I believe, aren't you guys like shutting down the jail system that you guys have? They're working on that. And so like he was like, how can we get more youth to be involved in that? And so when I brought up like having focus group, that kind of struck the thing for him, like what are our youth thinking like about getting this shut down, like trying to integrate them into that process as well. So I've been kind of like collaborating with him and meeting with him about like trying to make this happen. So I'm definitely like following that as well, trying to just build those connections. And it's really about like just giving them the tools that they need to go and do this work. So at first he's like, you know, he's been working on his public speaking and stuff like that, as you guys can see.
Well done, by the way.
Yes. So I think just having those different tools and avenues where youth can be trained and they have those opportunities to learn so much that they'll be more involved or wanting to be more involved. Because I know one of the biggest things for them is like, well, as me being like your adult partner, like what makes it work for you? They're like, well, you're personal, like you keep it cool, like we can relate to you, but you also get us, you listen to us. And I think just having more opportunities where it's like the city officials have those opportunities where the youth can feel like they're being listened to, more so not like, oh, just tell me how you feel, but I'm going to do what I want to do anyway. More so like, what are you really thinking? Kind of that intergenerational type of thing, because we all experience different things, and like what's important to them may not be what's like the main focus, but they may not understand that. So just having that bridge and that communication where they can understand that is definitely important. So that's like kind of what we're definitely working on and building with YLI. We've been doing it for 28 years, up and down California. So we have offices up here down to SoCal, and we just kind of been doing that same thing. So we've definitely touched on like affordable transit oriented development. So making sure like with affordable housing that they are connected with like major transit and stuff like that. So we're trying to do like transit for all and stuff like that. We advocated for like the reduction of youth passes and stuff like that. So we've been doing a lot of advocating, but for now it's just like really their focus is like how do we grow the adult partnerships, and instead of like coming to ask for like, oh, we want to just push this thing or we want to push this thing, their thing is like, they don't even know us. We don't know them. So let's build those relationships so when we do have asks, they're like, oh, okay, we already know you guys, we know the stuff that you've done. They can feel the same way about you guys or about city officials as adult staff. Like they've worked with us, we worked them, they listen to us. So when we come to them, it's more so like, I trust you. I'm coming to you to trust, rather than it's like, I'm coming to ask for something, and you can just say like, "Oh yeah, you look cute," but no, like that happens realistically. Like, and that happens. I've done this on the East Bay side. I'm from Alameda County. That's where I stay, and I've been doing it since I was 11. I'm 15 now. So, I mean, that's 15 years. I'm 26 now. So, like, I know the experience. So I know it's like, but like that.
But totally.
Yeah. So thank you guys again so much. I want to take up all your time.
No, and I'd like to make sure that, to give you just that, I'm piggybacking on what he just said, is talk to the city manager's office, because you want to find out what's going on in the city so that when you come attend, these events, you're there, we're there, the community's there. And, sometimes you're able to get a booth so you can let people come up and talk, and you can inform, and just people get to know who you are.
At the event that Cannabis doing in the summer for census.
Nice.
For Jefferson.
Oh, yeah.
I guess he does
Very
an
good.
annual thing,
Yes.
so we'll be there. That's what we were talking about.
Nice.
And
Well,
collaborating.
keep
So,
up the good work, and you too, Kiefer, stay involved.
Great job. And Rod,
Thank
it's a
you.
pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for taking
Thank
all
you.
this time and staying with us and talking with
Of
us.
course, thank you.
So important.
We'll see you guys again.
We
Don't
will
worry.
see you. I won't say goodbye until we see you again.
Yes. Thank you. Have a good night, guys.
Have a great night. Thank you. Thank you, both of you. Take care. We'll see you soon. Take care. Good night.
Now, that's what I call encouraging.
Wow, really
I
amazing.
can take their speaker cards and I'll forward them upstairs too.
Yeah,
Oh,
do.
please.
Thank
Thank you so much. Do we have a phone number for them?
Oh,
Or-
they do. Actually, maybe I'm going to run it. He can
Please.
come back in a-
Go
Please.
get 'em.
Thank you so much. Yeah, don't let them go too fast.
Uh,
Okay, so we have, now that we did that, I guess I'm going to let you proceed with the last announcements.
Yes, this is an item that is presented to the Planning Commission as a time extension for the temporary storage of new automobiles at the old Geneva Drive-In Theater site at 607 Carter Street. In 2007, the Planning Commission and City Council granted Saifi Properties approval to store a number of vehicles as an overflow lot for new car storage. And the use permit granted at that time for this 5.7 or 5.2 acre parcel allowed that the applicant would store 720 new vehicles there. And there were various conditions of approval placed on that. They have not to our knowledge, violated any of those conditions of approval and therefore
Yeah.
qualify for a time extension. The conditions of approval issued at that time required that the extension come before the Planning Commission and City Council, and so that's essentially what this item is. It's a request for an additional 2-year extension.
2 years, okay.
Is it just one dealership or various dealerships?
It's approved for various dealerships. I'm not real sure if it's just one or if it's various.
If I remember right, it was multiple.
It could be,
Bayou
yeah.
Free
There was
property.
a,
There were
Various.
several that were potential, let's put it this way, potentially
Very
there.
good. And are we saying 2 years because they're maybe developing at some point?
yeah, I think that's the purpose, yeah.
Was there any feedback from Saddleback, which is across the way on this issue?
No, there was no feedback at the time of the initial application that I.
No, I remember
recall.
that, yeah.
Yeah, but no.
Okay, wow. This one's an easy one. So we recommend that, recommend that the city council approve time extension of use permit UPR 517-12820, a voice vote motion?
So moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have a roll call?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's a roll call, beg your pardon.
It's okay. Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I guess we're good. So, seeing that we've taken care of everything we'd like to have taken care of today, I'd like to have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, here we go. Have a good evening. Thank you, everyone.
Michael, I'm going to leave